Hey guys, it's Asus here with StadiumBeerBros. Our first time here in Atlanta at Truist Park here at Terrapin Brewery. We actually met a couple guys through Instagram. Chad Marin, awesome guy. He's going to show us around. He's actually giving us a tour of his brewery right here. He's the lead brewer at Terrapin Brewing, which is actually in Truist Park. So let's go ahead and meet him. Thank you for the beer. He's right over here. And I'll have him introduce himself and his partner. So here with Chad and Seb. So go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
Well, welcome here. Cheers,
buddy.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Hey, all. I'm Chad Martin, and this is my buddy Seb Winkler. We are the two brewers here at the Terrapin Brewery in Atlanta. We brew beers for Terrapin for the stadium. So we are brewing research and development beers for Terrapin to complement Terrapin's portfolio. And we're also brewing good beers for the stadium. Anytime they want to mess around with a new recipe, a new ingredient, a new style, we brew a small batch of it here. It's placed on tap right after it's done, and it's served readily available for all the customers here on site, which is really cool for the Braves fans. They're constantly getting fresh beer provided to them, and also all the opposing fans get the experience to check out Terrapin here on site, seeing their favorite teams. So,
thank you. Any words, Seb?
We're really happy the StadiumBeerBros are here. We're going to have them upstairs, have us a couple beers from the Brights, and have us a good old Grand Opry time. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Welcome, everyone. So this is the main brew house and main cellar floor here at the Terrapin Brewery Atlanta, attached to Truist Park. So this is our main room. As you can see, these tanks here on the right, these are our fermenters. The fermenters are where the fermentation goes on. The fermentation is essentially the act of the sugar being metabolized by the yeast to create alcohol. So this is where most of the magic happens. As you can see, we have 6 different tanks, 6 fermenters, so we have the ability to ferment and brew 6 different beers essentially at a time. And over here on the left is the actual brew house. So the brewing process itself takes about 6 hours or so during a normal day. And that's where you will actually go through the process of mixing hot water and grain together in the mash tun, going through the lautering tun process where you extract all the wort from the mash, and then you transfer all that wort into the wort kettle, and that's where you'll add your hops. We'll boil it. We'll transfer it to our final vessel, which is the whirlpool. Whirlpool is where you add our big hop additions for big hoppy IPAs and pale ales. And then after that last vessel, we transfer it into one of these fermenters right here. So we'll take you into the brew house over. And this right here is the actual brew house itself. And you can feel free to take a walk up on the deck.
Okay.
Yeah. So the vessel on your far right, that'll be your mash tun and wort kettle. And that vessel right there is where all the hot water and grain will mix together, and that's your mashing process. And then we transfer it into the vessel right next to it. And as you can see, there's a false bottom in that vessel. You kind of think of the false bottom like a big tea bag. It's holding all of our grains inside the vessel, with allowing us to extract all the sugary wort substance from that vessel, and allows us to transfer all the wort into the wort kettle. And then that's where we'll actually add our hops. And the hops will add bittering characteristics to the beer. It also adds a lot of flavor. So your bigger, hoppier beers have a lot of hops being thrown into the kettle. Once your beer has been boiled, which is usually about 60 minutes to 90 minutes, so an hour and a half, we'll transfer all that wort into this last vessel, which is called the whirlpool. And the whirlpool, essentially, whirlpools the wort, and all the solids and trub and settling will allow all the proteins to settle to the very middle. And we basically pull the wort off the side, clear wort, and that's what goes into the fermenters right behind you. And then we'll introduce yeast at that point. And the yeast will essentially eat all the sugar and metabolize all the sugar and create alcohol and CO2. So welcome back, everyone. This is the mash tun. And this is essentially our grist hydrating chamber. So what's going on here is we have grain, crushed milled barley grain, getting sent into this vessel, and it's getting mixed with a lot of hot water all at once. and it mixes together in this vessel, and this is the mashing process. And what happens there is all the enzymes inside the malt will break down the complex sugars and the simple sugars, so it makes for the yeast later on in the process to metabolize those sugars. Once that process is done, we'll transfer everything into the lauter tun. And as you can see in the lauter tun, we have a metal false bottom and these rakes, and it allows us to extract all the sugar and wort from that mash with keeping all the grain behind. So all the grain stays behind where all the sugar wort comes into the kettle. So we'll transfer back into the kettle, and this is where we add our hops. And the hops will add bitterness to the beer and also a lot of flavor. So your big IPAs, your Imperial IPAs get a lot of hops in here. And some of our favorite varieties are Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic. Hops we use a lot. So after that boiling process is done, we'll transfer that wort into this vessel, and this is the last vessel. It's called the whirlpool. And as you can see down below, there's a little tube, and it shoots the wort out at such a force in this kind of centrifugal kind of manner. And the whirlpool, in effect, will allow all the hot proteins and solids to collect to the bottom, and we essentially will extract the wort from the side, getting just clear wort, and send it into the fermentation vessels, and that's where the fermentation will go on. Chad here again. So this is our finished bright tank beer room. So after the fermentation process of brewing beer, the beer is transferred into a bright tank or kind of a finishing vessel. And this is where we do our final Q&A, quality control checks. This is where we carbonate the beer, and we'll obviously sample it to make sure that it's tasting to specification and true to brand. Also, on a fun note, the bright tank room is located about 10 feet away from the chop house. So it's a good place to hang out when it's raining or if it's too hot, or if you just need a quick refresher from inside the stadium. Currently we've got 4 tanks. This one's currently empty. We just caked some beer off this on Friday. This tank has 10 barrels of a German house lager, which is currently lagering away. And the term lager is a German term for cold storage. So it is literally just chilling at a cold temperature for weeks on end, about 4 to 5 weeks before we actually decide to carbonate it and filter it and get it ready for packaging. So this one is just chilling, hanging out. These other 2 tanks, we have a West Coast IPA called On Deck IPA, and that features Simcoe, Mosaic, Citra, and Galaxy. So 4 of your big tropical hop varieties that we like a lot. And then in this tank right here is a new recipe we're working on. It's an amber lager recipe. Kind of similar to a Dos Equis amber. We feel it's a little bit different. It's probably got a little bit more malt character and just a little bit more breadiness and a little bit of toast character too as well. But extremely drinkable and 5%. So we're going to hook up our 2 pigtails. And what these do is these are tanks that are under a lot of pressure. And this device will essentially allow the beer to pour out without a ton of foam. So it makes it a little bit more for a better drinking experience. So we'll go ahead and just do a quick little sanitize on our connections. Make sure everything's all clean. 90% of beer brewing is making sure everything's clean. So we've got that one hooked up. Got this one hooked up. Now the last part is to pour. The freshest beer possible is always straight from the tank. So as you can see, it's coming out at a nice kind of easy rate of flow, so it's not getting too foamy.
Looking perfect. Wow.
And as you can see, this one's a little hazier. We actually had to carbonate it a little bit extra this morning, get a little bit of extra CO2 bump. So there's a little bit more haze in there as normal. In 24 hours, that'll settle and this will be a clear beer. So, but still flavorful and still carbonated. So,
Awesome.
cheers, y'all.
And Chad, can you show us how far away this brewery is from the actual field? So if you want, go ahead, take us on out.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead out there. We are just a short walk, y'all. And here we are.
Beautiful.
See quite a few of the Dodgers on the